We'll have many chances this week to pay tribute to my grandfather, but it was important for all of us that we stop here. These buildings, as you all know, are filled with his life, not just because this is a museum to his life, and not just because there's a collection here of his beloved paintings, but his spirit fills this place. And the real reason that this spirit fills this place is because of the people who are standing here. The people in this room, from the library and the museum and the Carter Center itself, you all are the real keepers of my grandparents' legacy. Jimmy Carter Library and Museum holds the historical legacy, tells my grandparents' story, which is really this unbelievable American story. And you hold it and you present it for my kids and for their kids and for all of those other generations to come. And to the people at the Carter Center, you continue the vibrant living legacy of what is my grandfather's life's work, really. You know this. He won the Nobel Peace Prize. He was president of the United States. And when he won that prize, it was in no small part, as you know, because of the work that this organization has done and continues to do. We will spend this week celebrating this incredible life. And a life that I think we can all agree is as full and powerful as any life can be. As someone said, it's amazing what you can cram into 100 years. But as we celebrate that legacy, I want you to know that in many ways we're talking about the work that you do every day. Many of you have devoted decades to his legacy. You've been his partners. You've worked alongside world leaders and the village heroes far beyond the end of the road that are the other people who carry out that legacy, who are not in the room today, but who all of us in this room know so well and respect so much. Your expertise, your track record will continue to drive a world where people can participate in free and fair and credible elections, a world where the rule of law and human rights are respected and enjoyed not just by some people, but by everyone. A world where kids don't go blind from preventable diseases like trachoma, where there's no such thing as guinea worm disease or river blindness, and where we've strengthened health systems far beyond the end of the road across some of the most marginalized places in the world. That is the work that gets done in this place, in these buildings. And one of the amazing parts of my grandparents' legacy is the strength of this organization and its ability to continue their work without their physical presence. All of us have been thinking about this day and planning for it for a long time, but it is obviously still hard for all of us. For us and my family, and I'm sure I can see on your faces for many of you. I appreciate that. But just know that while we mourn my grandfather's passing, I know in my heart, and you all do, that his legacy will live on, not only because of the millions of people that he touched across the globe, but very specifically because of your spirit and your knowledge and the work and the track record that you do every day. So for us, on behalf of my family, to the people in this room and to your colleagues and our colleagues across the world that work with the Carter Center, thank you for what you have done for him, for what you've done for my grandmother, and for what you continue to do for the world. Thank you so much.
Today's Saturday, and usually every Saturday I'm making the pilgrimage down to Plains, Georgia, and sitting beside President Carter in the compound. And you walk in the room, he's wrapped in a blanket that has Psalms 23 on it. one of his favorite psalms. The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I lack. He lets me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He renews my life. He leads me along the right path for his name's sake. Even when I go through the darkest valleys, I fear no danger. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Only goodness and faithful love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord as long as I live. If you can just use your spiritual imagination, for almost 2 years, our friend,
man, in that motorcade, there was a lot of love on the side of the road. Every overpass had people on it. It was amazing and gave you goosebumps just to sit in the van and see the reaction of the people of Georgia. It's so good to be here in the Carter Center, the circle of the life of our family for the last years. I'm so proud of Jason for accepting to be our family member on the board. And we're trusting him with my father's legacy now, so it's no pressure. But Dad's aspirations and Mom's dreams have been fulfilled in a large part by the people here, by what he did as president and governor. I want to tell you a little bit about him as a human being. When my brothers and I were 10 years old, we were hired by Carter's Warehouse to put seeds. They did 100-pound bags of burlap, and the federal government would get a ticket that said what the germination was and the farm material, and then you climb on top of the bags and you put those tickets on 100 bags. We got paid $0.10 a 100. But if the little husk on the peanut, the pink thing on the little outside of it is cracked, the peanut will not come up. So it's a perfect job for 10-year-olds. And we began to learn there the value of hard work, the value of trusting your neighbors. Most of the people that worked at the warehouse were African American. Our neighbors, the closest one to us, were African American, and they're the ones I spent my Saturdays with. They were my age. We had a wonderful snow sled we brought with us from Connecticut when we came back, and we carved a trail down the side of the canyon across the street from our house, and come back without getting hurt. And then you could use the rope to crawl to the top and then pull the sled behind you. This was on mud. On mud, yes. When I was in the 8th grade, I failed. I brought home at Christmas an F in Latin. I didn't see any reason to learn Latin. Nobody I knew spoke it very much. My father was not pleased. And so the next morning, he came into my room and said, we were on Christmas vacation. He said, you have your Latin book? I said, yes. He said, let me have it. He went to work at Carter's Warehouse. When he came home that night, we spent an hour and a half, him teaching me Latin that he had learned from my book that day. He did that every day of Christmas vacation. And the first day of the school year after Christmas, I went to my teacher and asked her if she'd let me take the final over again that she had given us, the midterm test. And she said yes. So after school that day, I took that test, and I made 100. I owed it to my father, who spent that kind of time with me. He was the Boy Scout leader in our town. One day we were trying to get our merit badges in hiking, and so we took a 6-mile hike to our pond on one of the farms, about 20 of us in the Boy Scouts. We had a great time. We had hot dogs and marshmallows and whatever, and had the big fire going. And at the end of all that, Dad started telling ghost stories. And one particularly bad one at the end was very gross. He claimed it happened on our farm. And so he told us to all go to bed. Well, we were just sitting there not knowing what to do. And after a little while, we decided that we would use the buddy system to go into the woods to use the bathroom after dark, so that we could all get some relief before we went to sleep, because we were sure that we were going to be attacked when we got there. I want to thank all of you here, as Jason said, because Dad's legacy from Georgia and his governor's office and from the presidency was a little bit rough at the end of it because of our opposition and the way they framed us, which was probably somewhat true and somewhat not. But all this stuff after that is in the hands of the people that worked here and that still work here now. I see many people here that I don't recognize. And I welcome you to come. I welcome you to spend your time doing the kind of things that my parents love to do and love for us to do. And I need to thank some other people too. The hospice folks that looked up to my father for 22 months were amazing. Every week we got a report from them on how he was doing, what we could do to make him more comfortable. And it gave us a lot of confidence, and it gave us the ability to think about him in a different kind of way. And then we had caregivers. One of them is here in the audience. Cynthia was with my father for 6 years. They became my father's friends. They are the people that help keep him alive and comfortable and fed and cleaned and doing all that kind of stuff that we didn't want to do. It was amazing what they did for us. And another thing I'd like to say is I'd like to thank my family. You know, when you're President of the United States, you're thinking about your family, but you're not interacting with them very much. His job was so much more than doing family stuff, so we didn't lose touch, but you had to get an appointment in advance. And that giving up of that time and sharing that was something that affected our family because we didn't have our parents as much as we could have. And I want to thank them for the sacrifice that they made and all that they gave. I was lucky 7 years ago. For the 5 years, I went to see my parents 3 nights, 2 days, a little plus, every week for 5 years. I took over the farm from him. He liked that because he was able to boss me around every day. But I actually was able during that time to become friends with my parents, something I never expected. To be able to sit down and talk to them like human beings instead of the boss. And then hospice came, and my brother Jeff and my sister Amy and my bride Becky and I split it up, so I didn't have to go every week. I only went every 4th week, which was kind of amazing. But 2 weeks every month, Becky and I were apart, and that was difficult for all of us. But he was an amazing man, and he was held up and propped up and soothed by an amazing woman. And the two of them together changed the world. And it was an amazing thing to watch for me.
joy.